You're listening to Female Founders with Claire Bartlett, the podcast that tells you what it is really like to be a female founder in today's world. We share invaluable insights through personal journeys and real-life business experiences, highlighting the highs and the lows so you can move forward in your business with ease. I am passionate to share with you the realities of business and give you the strategies and simple steps you need to truly succeed with your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. Managing your business finances can feel overwhelming, but Xero simplifies it all and gives you the power to keep your books in order and your mind on growth. Xero have offered an amazing 50% discount on your first 3 months with them. So if you'd like to take advantage of this amazing deal, just search refer.xero.com/female founders or follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to give this show a follow to make sure you never miss an episode and share it with any incredible female founders you know. But for now, let's jump into this week's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Female Founders podcast. Today, I'm joined by Emma Gage, a brand strategist who is the founder of the Wild One strategy. Emma, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you, Claire.
So I'm really excited to hear about your journey. So I know that you've worked at some pretty impressive places. So do you want to talk us back to how you got into being a brand strategist? Was there a pivotal moment or person that sort of has put you on that path?
Yeah, I can talk about that. My background is, it's like 20 years in the making, I guess. What I do now is quite different to what I did sort of previously. So I started in brand strategy in various guises. So first of all in media agencies, then advertising agencies, innovation, cultural insight, but always working for like strategy for brands and kind of businesses. I started in London in like 1998, which feels like it is a long time ago. And
doesn't feel it though.
It doesn't feel it, I know, but it really is a long time ago. And yeah, I worked at Saatchi & Saatchi and some of the sort of kind of big names. And then in 2009, I went to Asia and I was there for a decade. So living in Singapore and then a year in China, and I was the CEO of a business there. But really, so I was saying it's sort of lots of pivots along the way and lots of different types of agencies and types of work. But really at the heart of it, what I've always done is kind of brand strategy and business innovation. So I work for brands like Nike, Netflix, Google, L'Oreal, and doing everything from, like for L'Oreal, we did sort of product innovation across India, across China. So cultural insight, consumer insight to understand like commercial opportunity and kind of product information, innovation. Equally for Nike, I've done lots of things like brand activations to help them kind of help boost their sort of brand equity, again, find kind of commercial opportunities for them to engage new audiences or break into new markets. So always a sort of strategic element, but in different guises. And then I was in Asia. I went to Asia, married, came back, not married, with a child. And just before the pandemic that I obviously didn't know about at the time. And I was made redundant because I was actually heading up Asia for a business and then obviously can't head up Asia from London. So I was made redundant about 3 months after coming home. And then we went into the pandemic. So initially I was sort of freelancing and doing my strategy work again for brands and kind of traveling and things like that. And then I retrained as a coach during the pandemic, which I don't even know how that happened. I couldn't even tell you but it just sort of happened. And I was doing my strategy work and the kind of training. I almost think in the pandemic, it just gave me something to do because I was like homeschooling, single parenting in the pandemic was pretty brutal.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So especially that first lockdown, because there was no like support bubbles and things like that. So it was like literally like, oh, wow, it's like my first UK winter. And then like for a decade, and then the pandemic, it was pretty brutal. So I retrained as a coach, and I was doing that alongside bits of strategy work with brands still, but But I was doing that, and I pretty much, I was working with female leaders, and I pretty much fell down the sort of rabbit hole of like online business, and it's good and bad to that. And I learned stuff along the way, but I also found it quite like triggering. It was quite a kind of, yeah, it was a very different world to what I was used to. And it's
Yeah.
kind of what has informed the Wild Ones now, because I realised, I don't know why I was, I was paying business coaches at one point, despite my 20 years of like experience. Friends would be saying, God, you used to do the brand strategy for Nike. Why are you paying a business coach? It's like, well, I don't know this new world. Like, I don't know anything about this new world. Anyway, so I kind of brought the two together, and now I do what I used to do for brands, but for women who have got big ambitions for their business.
Love that. And why do you think you focus mainly on women-led businesses?
Yeah, well, my background, I've always worked for very creative agencies and very creative, high value brands, and so disruption has always been a big part of it. So, you know, that obviously they've got massive financial pressures. They've got all the confidence in the world. It's not like a founder-led business. They want to go out and be the best and disrupt things and be the first. Generally, when you're working with kind of businesses like that, disruption, having an idea that helps you claim a high-value space is just standard when you're working with like somebody like Nike. Like they don't want to do the same as everyone else. If someone else is winning, it's like, right, I want to learn from that, but how do we do things differently? So it's always about disrupting the status quo. And that was the thing I found quite interesting in the online space, because it felt very much, we'll just give women a roadmap. It was like marketing 101, give them a roadmap to follow. Everybody's following the same roadmap, doing the same thing. And I think especially for women, what I've realized is that a lot of women kind of want the roadmap. They want to, follow well-trodden path, I guess, have something that feels kind of certain, guaranteed. And so there's a real disruption gap. So all of my work is about that disruption gap with women, because it's for a lot of women keeping them stuck in this sort of never-ending selling their services. Like on Instagram, tweaking my messaging constantly selling this sort of one service, niching down, like how do I just sell this one thing, to the point where most of them, especially when I start working with them, generally are either sort of bored stiff of their business, they're burnt out by their business, burnt out by all the tactics, like the funnels, the kind of socials, and actually very few have an idea behind their business, which keeps it really small.
I find that so interesting. And I think you're right in that women need more of a certainty to the success than potentially male entrepreneurs. And I think that comes from a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
And the fact that they need to know that they'll be successful because of the fear of failure.
Yeah.
And making it a sure thing that they are going to make it worthwhile, that they're spending this time on their business. And I find that ties really nicely into the work that I do, building that confidence and getting the clarity on the mission and the building that self-belief that you can dream big, you can be as big as all those other brands that you're talking about if you so choose.
Yeah.
But can you explain, when you say disruptive,
Yeah.
what does that mean to you? What is your mission, in that space when it comes to marketing?
Well, I mean, when I talk about the disruption gap, I think the big learning for me, or the thing that I've noticed with women, is that they wait patiently to earn the right to claim space in the market. So, I get more certifications, or I get a bigger following, or I make a certain amount of money per month, and then I've kind of earned the right. And I think the online industry has made everyone believe that, because unless you've got, it's like there's an unwritten hierarchy of how good you are based on how many followers you've got, which blows my mind. And so, it's like you're sort of waiting to earn your stripes. So even if you're amazing, you've had a stellar corporate career, it's like, oh no, because you've started again now because you've only got like 100 followers, or that's how you're made to feel. So you've got to like earn your right. Whereas most of them, maybe some of them have bought their followers, but so it's like this sort of unwritten rule that you have to just sort of sit and wait for your time to come. But I think, what women should be doing is spending time working out kind of their their sort of special sauce, their unique superpowers, because you're not just the thing that you do or the service that you sell. So when I do the brand work, we go back over like all their kind of past work history, life history, who they are as a person, how they work, why they do the work. Like all those things are like really interesting nuggets and equities that we can use to create a really powerful like story. The disruption is like, you've got to know what bit of the pie you want to take. You've got to understand your category and think, where is the value? So not I'm another coach, I'm another copywriter, I'm another designer. Like if you think about it in the round, like a much bigger part, look at the category sort of 30,000 foot up, where is the biggest opportunity space? Like where's the high value work, the work that you want to do, the work that really lights you up as a founder? And then we have to create a really disruptive idea to land that, to claim that space. So not just waiting to earn it, like how do you just go and claim it now with point of view that is ideally contrarian and disruptive, a fresh way of thinking about things. That fresh way will not come from just knowing what you're selling and knowing who your audience are, because everyone's doing the same. Everybody's got the same within your category. Often everybody's got the same sort of audience avatar, very similar product. And obviously it's why everybody looks the same.
I think with women, especially, we see other successful women who are further down the track and, with those bigger audiences, like you say, the audience number means a lot.
Yeah.
And I think they then try and just emulate what they're doing, whether that's actually authentic to them or not. They see, well, that's working for them.
Yeah.
So that must work. That must be what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying is no, be 100% authentic, find your own story and then go and claim the space. Like that is such a powerful statement.
Yeah.
Don't wait for your turn or for your, little tiny portion of the pie, the crumb of the pie. Like go and own the entire pie.
Yeah.
Go and jump for it. And I think it takes a lot of guts and courage to do that. And I think there's definitely work sometimes for women to feel that, because I don't feel like they think that they deserve that.
We aren't conditioned to disrupt anything. I mean,
no, exactly.
The opposite.
We're not.
The opposite. Yeah. Keep everything as kind of should be. But I also think the authenticity thing is like a bit overblown, to be honest, because like the worst piece of advice I think for women is like use your marketing for like build the know, like and trust factor. And I think that's where that's marketing 101. Like, boy, it's like the industry has taken real marketing and just boiled it down to very simple, bite-sized sort of pieces, which I think is both good and bad. But I just think women do not need to be told to be liked any more than we already
That's
do.
True.
Like, we've got that, thanks. We're on that train already. We don't need to be told to be liked anymore. And I've written a blog post about it, and it was used Taylor Swift as an example. They're like, she's so a personal brand. She's so authentic, and it's like her authenticity is like the least interesting part of her. She's like politically outspoken and disruptive. She talks about misogyny. She's got ideas about like female friendships and kind of women. Like she's got massive disruptive ideas. If she'd just shown up, been authentic, like that's the least important. And so I think the sort of authenticity thing and like just showing up as you just sort of leads people to think they need to show everything on Instagram or, like behind the scenes sort of walks, and like it's not going to sell a high value service.
Yeah.
It's gonna keep you selling your bits and bobs kind of thing, but it's not what's going to build a high value business. I'm not on video.
And I think that's the difference, isn't it? You can play, it's a game, isn't it? You can play the game, you can build that know, like and trust and be authentic, but that's only going to get you so far. That's sort of I suppose it's like you say, that's the absolute basic in building that brand awareness. And it's having the audacity to stand behind yourself and be disruptive. And I think Taylor Swift's a brilliant example of that. So how do you, when a new client comes to you, for instance, and they've been keeping themselves small, and they don't feel like they deserve that piece of the pie yet or whatever, how do you work with them to build that confidence and then build that brand strategy to to make that happen for
Yeah,
them?
first of all, it's getting really clear on what they even want. And I think most people are in a constant cycle of selling their stuff without really knowing what they're building. Because it's like,
Yeah.
well, I hope to build that, but I wouldn't ever dare utter it. But so I spend quite a lot of time understanding the ambitions. So not just about how much money you want to make, but like, what do you want the business to be like? What sort of work do you want to do? Because most of the people that come to me when they're 10 years into their business are like bored and they haven't grown in their business. They've been doing the same thing for years, and they're scared to step away from their niche. So like right from the outset, what do we want to build? Like, what's the stretchy ambition for the business? Then I spend a lot of time, say, understanding like what the equities we have to play with. So understanding them, like their background, how they work, who they are as a person, their kind of brand and business now, but what they've done in the past.
Mhm.
And I also bring in, so we then look at the kind of category, but we zoom out. So for example, I've just done some work with a energy healer who works in sort of female leadership, and she'd always been in the sort of coaching category, but a sort of like, I'm a better coach kind of, thing. What we did was look at the category in the round. So we looked at like self-development, which included biohacking, psychedelic retreats, medicinals, mushrooms, like everything in the round, through to coaching and leadership and training, things like that. Identified a really high value space for her that fits with her equities. So fits with the things that are like the real reasons to believe that she could like claim that space. And came up with a disruptive idea that kind of landed that. And then we look at like how we're going to activate it. And it's not about like just doing all the things that everybody else does, but like let's get really clear how we activate that idea. And that could be in your business model, how you productize your offer suite, what you call the things, your point of view in the press, I always get my clients to write one keynote. So one keynote presentation, which absolutely crystallizes their point of view. So they're not doing all the things. Like they might have a
Mhm.
funnel, but that isn't the tactics have taken over. It's like, how are we going to land this idea? But all the way through to sort of client experience. But back to your point about when they haven't got the confidence, what I think is because a lot of people think they have to build know, like, and trust, be constantly visible on Instagram, got to have a personal brand that's just them and authentic, and it's debatable whether someone likes them or not. Like that is a hideous situation that I was in for like 2 years of my business, where it kind of completely stalled the business, really. And then I constantly beat myself up for not being visible enough. So it was this horrible, toxic kind of, I don't want, it's not about them being visible. I want them to stand for an idea. And I
Yeah.
think it changes the dynamic, because when you're standing for an idea in your business, like mine is about closing the disruption gap for women, you talk about the idea, not yourself. So you're not really promoting yourself. You're just selling yourself as a result of talking about your thinking and your ideas.
Yeah. I think that's so true. And I think the other thing, and this comes down to that point, is actually separating yourself from the business.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you are a brand strategist.
Yeah.
I'm a business
Yeah.
strategist, but I am not the business. The business
No.
is separate, and it
Yeah.
supports other business owners, and it has its tools. And
Yeah.
I'm just sort of almost how deliverer
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
information. And I think, again, I think that's a space that people really
Yeah.
struggle with, is actually, you hear so many people saying, I am my business and my
Yeah.
business is me. And
Yeah.
it's not true. And if you want to really build a brand and a
Yeah.
business, you have to do that separation.
Yeah.
And I think realistically that it gets harder the longer that you've been in business. It needs to be something, this whole process that you're talking about really needs to be something that you do quite early on. So when you are working with businesses, do you prefer businesses that have been existing for a while or the brand new?
Doesn't matter. For me, it's much more about the scale of your ambition, because there's people
Mhm.
who want sort of smaller lifestyle businesses, like fit around the kids or whatever that is, and don't really want much more. They're not like that. It's just not, because then you just really need some tactics. You need some, tight messaging, a niche, and you just sell it. Then you're sort of off to the races with that. That's fine. A degree of visibility. But it's like, if you've got a big, like I talk about unicorn ambitions, and it's not like all of my clients want to build $1 billion business. They don't all want to be unicorns. I don't want to build $1 billion business, but you've got a sizable kind of stretchy ambition, because it's the stretch that's the interesting bit. So I don't really, I work with people who are pre-revenue. Like I've just done a positioning for a new type of like futures trends agency that's hasn't even started trading yet.
Okay.
But equally, I've worked with people who have been in business for 20 years, and that's fine as well, because everybody's got equities to play with and bits of their story they're not really kind of amplifying. And I think it's normally they come to me when they're more established, if they kind of want that next step up, because there's only so much of the same that you can do. Sometimes like the next level up is going to require something quite different. I think also people's positioning sometimes has just become like Frankenstein over the years, because they've chased, and it's always this, they've chased the money and they haven't stayed true to or what they think will be the money. But actually what they end up with is quite a diluted brand that just lacks the sort of potency that it once had. So they kind of run out of ideas.
Yeah. So can you explain what the difference is? So you are a brand strategist. Is that different to a marketing strategist? What's the difference? And is there different points in a business where you need one or the other? Do they work together?
I think there's a lot of online people that have given themselves different names. I would always go to their LinkedIn as a first point of like, if you're going to hire anybody like brand, business, marketing, like always go to their LinkedIn and genuinely look what they've done. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, they were literally the graduate at that. They were there a year, you know? Anyway, I think I'm talking about brand positioning. So for me, it's like the how you're going to position the whole business. And that's whether that's a business brand or a personal brand. When I've got that like central idea, I mean, obviously the whole strategy is built on getting to that, because you've identified your ambition, you've identified what you've got to play with, you've identified, the opportunity in the category. And then we're creating a strategy to help you get there. Out of that forms, then you have to land it, because there's no point having a beautiful, I create a strategy blueprint for clients, but you have to land it in the real world. So we look at, say, like business model and products. We'll look at your marketing and messaging, look at your personal brand, if you've got a business brand, like how the two together, a kind of visibility profile, everything down to assets and IP, down to kind of client experience. So it's everything. I guess a marketing strategist, it's not even a thing really in the real world, but an online person calling themselves a marketing. I mean, you call yourself a marketeer if you owned a brand and you were just talking about like how to sell the brand or how to like activate an idea. But everybody's called themselves different things, so it's not like you can say this is how it all fits in. I mean, it's the Wild West in the online.
Yeah.
In the real world, you would have brand strategists. I do brand strategy and business innovation. So, you would have a brand strategist that would give you your framework, your foundations, and then you might have a marketing person or an advertising person or a social media person. So, but they're
I think you need to understand the brand strategy and understand what you're trying to actually achieve with that brand before you can really start looking at the actual marketing.
Yeah.
Because you can, like you say, the marketing can be really flat and it's just show up, like and trust, be visible and authentic.
Yeah.
Which are, when we talk about those things, they are important. And as a starting point, they're a great place to start. But it's when you want to take that next, when you want to turn the level up, basically, you want to start disrupting the space that you're in and really standing out. And that's when you need to go deeper than that. Yeah. So I was speaking to somebody the other day, and I actually did a podcast episode on this recently where I discussed the potential for the 3 brands in essence for every business. So there's the personal brand, then the actual business brand, then the product brands. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that there's a collaboration? So for me, I think being the face of your brand and showing who's behind the brand is quite important to a certain level. Obviously, Nike, Apple, if we look at Apple, for instance, You know the inventor, you know the person behind it, you know the products, and you know Apple individually. So what area do you think? Do you agree that there's those three areas to be looking at? No, she's shaking her head.
And no, it's not. It's just that. Well, some people have got a personal brand business. You know, I'm called the Wild Ones. If I was Emma Gage, then I'd have a personal brand business. So you know it. But I think you have a brand strategy, whether you're a business brand or a personal brand, and that's one brand idea, and then everything else is just a channel to land it. So an asset of building a brand asset can be a great way of landing it. So for the Wild Ones, my personal brand is a great way of it's a channel. My personal brand's a channel to land the bigger idea behind
To
the wild.
talk about the wild
Yeah.
ones.
Things
Yeah.
like my signature system, my way of like thinking is called the reimagining. That's a brand asset. That's not a brand in its own right. It's just an asset.
Okay.
Product names, assets, signature systems, IP. So I agree with what you were saying previously about the separation. And what I always say to my clients is like, we're going to build it like you're going to sell it, because then you think about assets and you think about yourself not in the business. So I'm all for assets. I don't think they're all separate brands, because I think the danger of that is you've got millions of different brand things going on. It's too like you'd have different ideas, and it's like the one idea, and then everything is just an opportunity to land that idea.
Yeah.
But
So I
assets
think
really
we're actually
important.
on the same page.
Mm,
We've just maybe have spoken about it slightly differently, because I said exactly the same thing, that you need to remove yourself and your
yeah,
personal brand from it, because at some point we all need an exit
yeah,
strategy.
yeah,
So if you are completely embroiled in the business,
mm,
then you go to sell it, the business won't survive without you behind
yeah,
it. So it's important to have that separation. So
yeah,
yeah, I think we're quite aligned, but just
mm,
using different
yeah,
terminology and
yeah,
maybe explaining it differently. But
yeah,
yeah, so often when we go into business in the very, very beginning, we
mm,
just have this skill or this knowledge or this product or whatever it is that we want to then share with the
yeah,
world. And I think so often none of us are ever taught about
mm,
running a business. We don't know about brand and
yeah,
marketing and, accounts. We don't know any of the other
mm,
elements. So we just go into it really blindly, and
yeah,
we're like, we just want to start posting a couple of things on socials maybe and start talking about it. And we don't have the separation at that point. We are very much like, it's me and this is my idea or product and this is what I want to do. So do you think there's a point where then maybe, like you said, when you're trying to take it to that next level and you suddenly think, well, actually, I need to be thinking about these things. I need to start actually building a brand around this
mm.
and putting a bit more thought and effort maybe into these areas of the business.
Well, I
Do
mean,
you think that that's something that comes naturally, or do you think people have a wake up call when suddenly their business is not doing as well as they think, and they're like, and trying to figure out the answers to why that might be?
yeah, I mean, I think it's different for everybody, isn't it? Because some people are happy just to carry on like selling their sort of services like that. And some people want to start big from the start, you know, because I work with, say, like with pre-revenue kind of startups.
Yeah.
Depends what the scale of your ambition is. And I think we all get to the point where we just think like, oh God, I'm not doing this anymore. So it's that like feeling of restlessness, like I cannot keep saying the same thing on Instagram like until the day I die. Like I cannot be sticking to the same three pillars or selling the same thing or doing the same thing and repackaging it into a different program or whatever is still the same thing.
Yeah.
I think the biggest wake up call is that, you know, the first year feels wildly exciting and terrifying. But then you're like, God, in my corporate job, at least I had some kind of training and development, or I grew in some way, or I had someone pushing me. And it's like, or you're inspired by the people around you. And all of a sudden, I think you can get to a point where you just think, is this it? Me in my loft room doing the same thing, you know, on repeat. So I think that point of restlessness, or I've got this big ambition, but I'm just not going to get there. Like if I can't just do more of the same to get to this big ambition. Yeah, everybody has that at different stages in the journey. There's no sort of right or wrong. I mean, ideally, you
Yeah.
do this from the start. If
Yes.
if you want premium, like premium pricing. If you want to, you know, all of that from the start, then you need a brand.
So if somebody's listening now and
Yeah.
they maybe have never put any much thought into this
Yeah.
before, or they've just been the brand
Yeah.
themselves, but now they're wanting to level up, where would you recommend that they start? Is there sort of three things that you would say for them to start looking at initially?
Yeah, I think ask yourself some questions about your category, your industry. I think like spend some time with some Sharpies and an A3 pad. It's like, what is the thing that is really exciting in my industry? Like, and think big. Like, if you're a coach, think bigger than that. Like, self-development, wellness, personal, whatever it is. But like, think big. Like, what is really exciting? And just like noodle on it a bit, like spend time with it and think like, what is really exciting? What's the big thing that needs to be changed?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, one of the exercises would always do with brands is like, we look at in an innovation workshop, like what are all the conventions? What are all the things that everybody does in this category? Like we do it for beauty advertisers, tons of conventions, a famous face, a, a showing the makeup being put on, like like how do they market it? How do they package their products, services? How do they speak? Like what are all the conventions in your category? And then you can, and like you could get to probably 150 of them. And then it's
Yeah.
like you look through that list and you think, what are the 5 I'm going to break? So, just trying to be like subversive in some way or have a point of view about why you're breaking them. And I think when you do that exercise in the context of what's going on in the category and what actually needs fixing, rather than just carrying on the same as everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
I think can be a good start point. I've also got a free downloadable, like a playbook, which is all about like how to create $1 million brand, which I think you'll
Oh,
need to.
amazing. So I'll put
Yeah,
if you send it over, I'll put the
yeah,
link in the show notes for
yeah,
everybody to grab that.
yeah,
Do you think, I suppose what you're saying is that you need to have purpose. It's not just good enough to write this list and then just pick 5. You need to have a reason and a purpose behind them, why you've chosen those 5, and build that into a strategy and
yeah,
stay with that. And I think it's so easy to, the first sort of hurdle that we come across, let that change our route and our direction away from the strategy. But you need to go over those and through those and feel the pain, and just push forward, because especially if you are wanting, like you say, to be disruptive and really make a noise in that space, you are going to come up against roadblocks. And, there's going to be times where it's difficult. It's not going to be easy to disrupt a whole market. So you
So,
need to be really strong with your strategy.
yeah. And the thing that makes it easier is that you can stop doing all the bloody tactics. Because
Yeah.
when you've got a really clear idea behind your business, you can just do fewer, but just do it better.
Yes.
So a lot of the things that people are selling, you don't have to keep buying because you're very clear about what it gives you absolute strategic focus. Like, I don't need that. I don't need that. And I think it's just for people to, I know not everybody's background is marketing, but to make some real, like to do everything with real intention, because I think at the start you can just get lost in, oh God, I've got to have a like 3-stage funnel and a tripwire and a nurture sequence, and I've got to do ads and I've got to do, I mean, it's like, so I'm not even on video. You won't even see me on video on my Instagram. It's like you
And
don't,
that's intentional for you.
don't have to do all the things that everybody tells you to do because they're only trying to sell things. But actually, if you've got an idea behind your business, you can do less.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, like you say, having intention and having purpose behind every action that you take.
Yeah.
And like we've said, making sure that it's staying aligned with the overall strategy.
Yeah.
And it gives you what's the word I'm looking for? It gives you the acceptance to say no to things. Like it gives you that authority to own your own path. And when an opportunity comes along, for instance, that seems like a great opportunity, but it's actually diverting you from your path, it gives you that clarity to just know that it's the right thing to say no to that. And I think that's something people get so easily distracted. It's that shiny object scenario. And we think, oh, well, that's not quite fitting where I thought I was going, but it's a great opportunity. So we'll go that way. And you end up going completely off the rails of where you originally envisioned.
Yeah.
And it, like you said earlier, when someone has started a business with passion and a goal and a vision, and then just over time, it's all diluted and they've lost their way. So this is a great tool that they can use and start revisiting the brand and asking themselves those difficult questions to really start building that alignment again.
I do think it's a bit of a quirk of the online world, because anyone building a real world business that isn't, I mean, obviously is on the online space as well. They're all real businesses, but who aren't solely looking at Instagram to or kind of socials generally, just wouldn't have all these messages. They would not be exposed to people telling them 500 times a day that they're doing everything wrong. Just wouldn't. You know, my friends that have built agencies and stuff don't have people telling them every 5 minutes they're doing everything wrong, or someone trying to sell them things. They just do what they do. So while it's it's a good and bad, isn't it? But it can be a toxic, obviously, and a very disabling environment, I think, if you're just starting out.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it can rock you and your plan and your vision, and and also I think because the online space incredibly crowded. There's so many people all trying to do the same thing, and you can get comparisonitis, and you start looking at them, and as we said right at the beginning, you start emulating what they're doing because you think, oh well, it's working for them. But just because it's working for them, that then everybody starts emulating it. And like you say, everyone's just on that same treadmill, like trying to do the same things. But actually what you should be doing is you should be all the way over there, creating your own noise. And I think that's such a powerful vision to have for your business. So if somebody, like I said, was thinking, right, they've downloaded your freebie and they're really wanting to really take action on this now, how can people find you? Where's the best places to find you?
Well, I've got my website and Instagram, really. So I'm the Wild Ones Strategy on Instagram, and they can download that free playbook. And I have I do mainly done for you strategy work with people. We do strategy sessions together, but I create the kind of output. So that's mostly what I do. But I also do one-off strategy sessions with people to help them refine their positioning.
Amazing. Well, like I said, I'll put all of the links in the show note for everyone. But if is there a specific industry that you enjoy working with the most, or what's the branding strategy that you've created that you've been the most proud of in your career?
In my career, wow. I mean, I loved working with Nike. I worked with Nike in Shanghai for quite a number of years, and they were my best client ever. So we did loads of cultural work, understanding how Nike came to be in China, to create really sort of authentic, culturally relevant brand stories around the brand in China, rather than just transplanting everything from the US into China. So we did loads of ethnographic work with Chinese teens. We did all the sort of cultural work. We spoke to cultural experts and created a sort of strategic blueprint for them in China. So yeah, that was pretty good.
It's probably the best one.
Yeah, and then now, I mean, in terms of industries, I mean, I it's really diverse. I've done everything from coaching to designers to people who are building. I work with a lot of advertising agencies, product brands, as well as product businesses, as well as service-based businesses. Yeah, psychedelics I've done, not psychedelics I've done, but businesses. So yeah, any industry. And actually I really like industries where it's become quite commoditized and crowded, because that's where the biggest can make the biggest difference.
Yeah, you can make, when they get, like you say, they all just get the same, don't they? They just blend then, and coming in and really shaking all of that up must be quite rewarding. So just one last question for you. So you've mentioned a few times about looking into it and researching, the industry and things. How important is doing that research into your competitors and into the overarching space?
Everything, because you can't have a point of view on the category unless you've. So I do category deep dives, and we pull apart people's messaging and things like that, and say, look in a bigger space than you would ordinarily look, adjacent spaces to you. What is my category and what are the adjacent spaces? And I also do a load of cultural trends work, because unless you can get a perspective that's bigger than just the thing that you're selling or your tiny little slice of the pie, you won't have. That's why you have no ideas. People say I'm out of ideas. It's because they need to sort of explode out. Any innovation process requires divergent insight. Go and look at something completely different. Go and look at someone who targets your audience but in a totally different space. If you just constantly look in the same 1 mile radius of your category, it's why you run out of ideas. because everyone's doing the same thing. You need to kind of explode that out. So category, culturally, what is happening, cultural trends. I've got a newsletter actually people can sign up to that is supposed to be it goes out on a Wednesday, and it's like a hit of big thinking. So it's totally random stories about like advertising world, new brands, cultural trends, psychological studies. Like it's like just a hit of different inspiration. And I think that's what people need to do. Stop obsessing about their category, and in fact stop following everyone in your category. Immediately stop following all your competitors and start following people that are inspiring, or that are like something you're interested in, is a passion for you, because you just will have better ideas.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, especially the newsletter. It sounds really an interesting read to perk you up in the middle of the week.
Yes.
But yeah, so I mean, really, I think the message here is to just think bigger.
Yeah.
Always think bigger, and view everything that you're doing bigger, and start thinking outside that box. Stop keeping everything small.
Yeah.
The vision small, the business small, and yourself, your thinking small, and start looking at that much bigger picture, which I think is a great message. So, Emma, I just want to thank you so much for
just to remember that there is no man in business that is spending his marketing money trying to be liked.
I love that. Is so powerful and so true. And again, then that just takes us right back to the beginning with the confidence. And men don't, I need to reframe this, I think, because I do often talk about the know, like, and trust, but you are so right that we definitely do not need to be told anymore to be liked.
No.
And one message that I do say quite often actually is that, you will, when you're putting out your content, not everybody is going to like that content. No. You're going to have people that don't like it, and actually that's okay, because they will leave, and you're building them that true audience. And again, that comes down to the know, like, and trust, doesn't it? Not everybody will like you, and that is okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Emma, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really loved that conversation. As I said, I'll put all of the links in the show notes if anyone does want to catch up with Emma in the future. But for now, have a wonderful weekend, and I will speak to you all next week.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, which was brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. If you're running a small business and you're dreaming big, then Xero is here to help make those dreams a reality. Xero is all about supporting women like you, who are not just running businesses, but are also changing the game. So whether you're just starting out or you're scaling up, join a global community of female founders who trust Xero to manage their finances efficiently. Just visit refer.xero.com/female founders to learn more. But for now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this episode with all the incredible female founders you know. And together, let's change what it means to be a female founder in today's world.